Either they're having an affair or it was very shy.
15 seconds. That is all it took to destroy a woman's entire life. Kristin Cabot sat across from Oprah Winfrey and said the words that nobody had ever heard. It was a mistake. I shouldn't have been out with my boss. But it wasn't a mistake that I deserved to die for. She paused, and then she said it again. It wasn't a mistake that deserved people threatening me and threatening my children. What she revealed next is the part that makes everything you think you know about this video completely wrong. Do you remember the clip? The one that became the most watched moment of 2025? The so-called Coldplay Kiss Cam. A woman swaying to yellow in the arms of a man, Chris Martin pointing them out on the jumbotron, the woman whipping around in what looked like pure panic, the man ducking for cover. The internet decided within hours what it meant. She was a homewrecker, a gold digger, a side piece, a husband stealer. 300 billion views across every repost and reaction video. More views than there are people on Earth, played over and over and over again. And every single one of those views came with a judgment attached. But here is what nobody knew, what nobody bothered to find out before they destroyed her. Kristin Cabot was already separated from her husband. She had been for 6 weeks. They were living apart, planning a divorce. It was completely amicable. Her husband Andrew was actually at the same concert that night with someone else, because they had both moved on. And Andy Byron, the man she was dancing with, her boss and the CEO of the tech startup where she was chief people officer, he was also separated, also planning a divorce, also living apart from his wife. Neither of them was cheating on anyone. Let that satisfying truth sit for a second. 300 billion views across every platform, death threats to her children, women approaching her on the street to tell her she should die, all of it based on a 15-second video and a joke from Chris Martin. Either they're having an affair or they're very shy. Kristin did not even hear him say it. The music was too loud. She found out days later when she finally saw what the internet had made of her life. But how does a 40-something mother of two go from dancing at a concert to becoming the most hated woman in America in less than 24 hours? The answer involves a career destroyed, a company in chaos, and a decision that would cost her everything. Kristin Cabot had worked her entire career in human resources, nearly 30 years building a reputation in Boston's tech industry. She was good at her job, really good. The kind of executive who could hire hundreds of people during a company's growth phase and still make time to mentor young women trying to climb the same ladder she had climbed. When she joined the startup where Andy Byron was CEO, they became partners in the truest professional sense. The chief people officer and the CEO of a high-growth company talked 10 times a day. That is just the nature of the job. They were in it together. Then, about 6 weeks before the concert, Kristin went through something that millions of people go through. Her marriage was ending. She and her husband, Andrew, had decided to separate. They were doing it the right way, living apart, planning the divorce, keeping things amicable for the kids. One day at lunch, she told Andy what was happening, and he told her something she had not expected. He was going through the exact same thing. His marriage was also ending. He and his wife were also living apart, also planning a divorce. Suddenly, two people who had worked side by side for months had something deeply personal in common. They started talking more about their kids, about what it felt like to end a marriage, about the fears that come with starting over in your 40s. Kristin told Oprah that they developed feelings for each other during those weeks. Real feelings, not a fling, not an affair. Two single people, both in the midst of ending their marriages, finding something unexpected. And what she told Oprah next explains exactly why 15 seconds on a jumbotron destroyed everything. They knew they had a problem, and they had a plan to fix it. She reported to him. In her role, she was literally the person responsible for flagging workplace relationships that could cause problems. She knew better than anyone how this could look, so they made a plan. They would go to the board of directors together, disclose the relationship, propose changing the reporting structure so she no longer reported directly to him, do everything by the book. The concert was supposed to be just a fun night out. Before they had that conversation, Kristin got the invitation from her best friends, 2 extra tickets to Coldplay at Gillette Stadium. She never goes out on weeknights. She is either with her kids or working. But she had just been through a hard few weeks, and she thought, why not? She invited Andy. It felt like a no-brainer. They were already talking 10 times a day. They enjoyed each other's company. Her friends were coming. It would be a group. What she did not know was that her estranged husband, Andrew, was also at the concert, with someone else. Her daughter texted her as she was walking in to tell her 55,000 people in Gillette Stadium. What were the odds they would actually run into each other? They never ran into each other. But what happened next was so much worse than any awkward encounter could have been. The concert was amazing. It was summer. They were in a general admission area at the far end of the stadium from the stage, dancing with friends. She had 2 drinks called High Noons, nothing crazy, just enough to feel a little looser. They were listening to Yellow when it happened. Kristin did not hear Chris Martin say he was going to pan the audience. She did not hear him make the joke about having an affair. She was just dancing, swaying to the music, and suddenly she saw herself on the jumbotron. She told Oprah that her immediate thought was not about getting caught cheating. Her first thought was about Andrew. Her estranged husband was somewhere in that stadium, and his family was very private. The last thing she wanted to do was embarrass him. Her second thought was about her job. Oh my God, I'm in the arms of my boss and I'm the head of HR. This is a really bad look. Andy ducked, she whipped around, they left the area immediately. For the entire ride home, all she could think about was hoping Andrew had left early, hoping he had not seen it. She had no idea that in a few hours, 300 billion views would follow. In the middle of the night, Andrew texted her, not angry, concerned. He sent her a screenshot of the video that was already exploding on TikTok. Houston, we have a problem here. He wanted her to get to her kids before they woke up and saw it on their phones. Her 2 teenagers, 14 and 16 years old. Picture that for a moment. Picture being 14 or 16 and waking up to find your mother is suddenly the most hated woman on the internet. By morning, Kristin's phone would not stop ringing. But the calls from friends were nothing compared to what was coming, because the harassment was about to get so much worse. They called the board of directors, had the conversation they had planned to have anyway. The board was actually understanding. They went through a full HR investigation that found nothing wrong. They wanted her to stay. But Andy Byron resigned a few days later, and Kristin knew she could not stay either. The company she had helped build was now in an impossible position because of her. Had it not gone so viral and gotten so toxic, I would have gone back in and taken the punch, she told Oprah. I would have stood up in front of the company and said, I'm human. I made a really poor choice, but let's get back to it. But that was not an option. She chose to leave a job she loved and a career she had spent 3 decades building. Because 15 seconds on a jumbotron had made it impossible. But that was just the beginning. A very prominent person in public relations told Kristin to stay quiet, that she had triggered such an avalanche of hate that nobody would believe anything she said, that she should keep her head down and let it blow over. It never blew over. Women approached her on the street to tell her she should die. They parked outside her house. They found her phone number and called just to harass her. They found her children's school. 90% of the online hate came from women. Every single in-person confrontation came from a woman. Not one man ever approached her. She tried to take her daughter to the local pool a few weeks later. A woman started taking pictures of them. Her daughter, still a teenager, lost it. Mom, can we just leave? That is when it hit Kristin how bad this really was. Her kids could not go to the pool without being photographed and harassed, and then someone famous poured gasoline on the fire. Someone who had built her entire brand around uplifting women. Reynolds produced a commercial that made fun of the Coldplay incident. Gwyneth Paltrow starred in it. The woman whose entire brand is built around wellness and empowering women chose to participate in the public destruction of a woman she had never met. When Oprah asked Kristin about it, she did not hold back. I find it really astounding that Reynolds thought this was a great way to lead. His wife, Blake Lively, just went through something similar over the last year. Oprah revealed that she had called Gwyneth directly. Gwyneth said she was told that Kristin and Andy had signed off on the commercial. Kristin looked at the camera. No, she had never given permission. Nobody had asked her. Here is what those 300 billion viewers never saw. Here is what changes everything. They never saw a woman who had spent her career lifting up other women. They never saw a mother trying to protect 2 teenagers from an internet mob. They never saw 2 people who were both single when they developed feelings for each other. They never saw the plan they had made to do everything by the book before the whole world decided they were criminals. What they saw was 15 seconds, a joke from Chris Martin, and a woman who looked guilty. An audience member at Oprah's taping stood up, a woman who had been cheated on after 17 years of marriage. She admitted that when she first saw the video, she passed judgment. Everything done in darkness comes to light, she thought. But then she said something that Kristin needed to hear. The only person that can define who I am is me. She apologized for the judgment she had passed, and she said the words that nobody had said to Kristin in months. Irrespective of what I thought, I would have never ever said something mean or wished death upon you. That's unacceptable. Kristin told Oprah she wants to sit down with some of the women who are so angry at her. She wants to understand why. She wants to hear what they would have liked to see her do differently. "I'm just a regular person," she said at the end of the interview. "I'm a private person. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be famous. I'm just a mom that takes my kids to school and picks them up at practices and tries to juggle work and parenting. She is someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's friend, and she is living proof that the internet can destroy an innocent person before breakfast. Think about all the mistakes you have made in your life, all the things you wish nobody had seen, all the moments you would take back if you could. Now imagine if one of those moments was watched 300 billion times across every platform on Earth, and people started threatening to kill you and kill your children. Would you survive that?" Kristin Cabot did, barely. She says she is grateful. She has the tools to sit here and talk about it because so many people who go through something like this do not make it. She did not steal anyone's husband. She was not having an affair. She was a single woman dancing with a single man at a concert. And the world decided she deserved to die for it. Sometimes the story everyone tells is not the real story at all. If this made you think twice about the way we treat people online, you are not alone. Because there is another story about a woman who was judged for something the internet got completely wrong, and what she finally said about it will change how you see everything.